All right, ready for another deep dive. Today we're tackling a pretty intriguing text
Oh, yeah.
called The Faster You Quit This, the Better Your Spiritual Life.
What a title.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder what exactly we're supposed to quit, right?
It definitely challenges the way we usually think about spiritual growth.
Yeah, usually it's all about like adding more stuff, meditation or
Yeah, more practices.
practices or reading more spiritual books or
Exactly, but this text is suggesting something totally different.
like hitting the brakes,
Let him.
quitting things,
Yeah,
which is, I gotta admit, not the first thing that comes to mind
right.
when I think spiritual progress.
Not the usual path.
But this text actually makes a pretty strong case that,
It's compelling.
yeah, it argues that quitting the stuff that just doesn't serve you anymore, the stuff that's holding you back from your best self can be like incredibly freeing.
Like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, and not just like a surface level feeling lighter, but like really making space for new growth.
Think of it like a sculptor
Okay.
chipping away at a block of marble. They're not adding anything new, they're actually taking away
Oh, I see what you mean.
to reveal the beauty hidden within.
So it's about uncovering what's already there, like our true selves, by letting go of the stuff that's in the way.
You got it.
I'm digging this visual, but what strikes me is how the text emphasizes this idea of release rather than effort.
It's about surrender.
Yeah, and it uses this great analogy of a river.
Oh, I love that one.
You can struggle and fight against the current and just exhaust yourself, or
It's just let go.
go with the flow and
Yeah.
let the river carry you effortlessly.
Exactly.
I love that. It speaks to aligning with the natural flow, like surrendering to something bigger than ourselves.
A higher power, the universe, whatever resonates with
And
you.
totally. But here's the question that's burning in my mind.
Shoot.
What exactly are we supposed to be quitting?
Well, the text encourages us to take a good look at our lives and see where we might be holding on too tightly. It could be anything, fears, beliefs that are outdated, even parts of our identity that don't fit anymore.
So it's about taking stock of what's weighing us down, internally and externally.
Absolutely. And then having the courage to release it.
Easier said than done.
Right.
But you know what I think the text actually calls out fear as like the biggest roadblock?
To quitting and to spiritual growth.
Totally. It's fear that keeps us stuck in these ruts even when we know they're not good for us.
Fear of failure.
Yeah, fear of the unknown.
It's powerful stuff.
I've definitely been there.
We all have. The text encourages us to face those fears head on. Ask ourselves, what's the absolute worst that could happen?
Sometimes I think we build those fears up in our minds way more than...
More than reality.
Yeah, they're not actually as scary as they seem.
Often they're based on illusions
Interesting.
or assumptions that crumble when you examine them closely.
So it's about challenging those fears and taking back our power.
Exactly. Fear is often more of a projection than reality.
This is really resonating with me, but I want to be clear. This text isn't saying we should just ditch our jobs or abandon our responsibilities, is it?
No, not at all.
Like, this isn't about giving up on everything.
It's not about neglecting commitments.
Okay, good.
It's about an internal shift, letting go of those mental and emotional patterns that trap us in fear, doubt, negativity.
Right. It's about aligning our actions with what really matters.
Exactly.
So it's not about giving up on the external stuff. It's about letting go of what's holding us back on the inside
Exactly.
so we can show up more fully in the world.
That's it.
And you know what's really fascinating to me is that this whole idea of quitting as a spiritual practice, it actually shows up in different traditions.
It does. It's not a new concept.
Really? Like what?
Well, take Buddhism, for example.
Okay.
Detachment is a central theme, letting go of attachment to
Mm.
possessions, outcomes, even the idea of a fixed self.
So not clinging to things, recognizing that everything changes.
Impermanence is key.
Okay. And how about other traditions?
Well, in Taoism, there's the concept of Wu Wei, which is often translated as effortless action or non-doing.
Interesting.
It's about aligning yourself with the natural flow of the universe, letting go of the need to force things or control every little detail.
Wow. So this idea of quitting is about surrendering to a bigger picture, a universal wisdom.
Yes, and trusting that this flow, this intelligence, is guiding us towards what's best for us.
Even if it takes us on a detour.
Even then,
I'm starting to see how quitting can be an act of faith, even a form of courage.
it's not about giving in, it's about aligning with something greater.
And the text promises some pretty amazing benefits if we can embrace this practice of quitting. Things like freedom, peace, authenticity, even greater spiritual power.
Big claims.
Yeah, those are some bold statements.
They are, but they're not as far-fetched as they might seem at first glance.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's break down these benefits. Starting with freedom, how does quitting lead to more freedom? It seems a little contradictory.
It does, doesn't it?
Like, how can letting go of things, even things that aren't good for us, actually make us more free?
Well, think about it this way. When we cling to rigid beliefs, to that need for control or an outdated version of ourselves, we actually create limitations.
We box ourselves in.
Exactly. But when we let go of those constraints, we open up a whole new world of possibilities.
Like removing blinders.
Yes. And that expanded vision, that sense of possibility, that's where true freedom lies.
Makes sense. It's about releasing limitations we've often unconsciously put on ourselves.
Exactly. And that brings us to the next benefit. Peace.
Okay.
How do you think quitting can lead to greater inner peace?
Well, if we're constantly fighting against reality, resisting the flow of life, it's going to create a lot of internal turmoil,
You're right. A lot of our suffering comes from that internal struggle.
forcing things that aren't meant to be.
But when we surrender, when we accept things as they are,
We find some peace,
we find stillness amidst the chaos.
even if it's not exactly what we had planned.
Precisely.
Mm.
It's about letting go of that constant need to control and manipulate everything.
So that brings us to authenticity.
Yes.
How does quitting help us live more authentically?
When we quit the need for external validation, the constant striving to please others or meet their expectations, something incredible happens. We free ourselves to express who we truly are without pretense or apology.
Like giving ourselves permission to just be ourselves.
Exactly. And that is incredibly liberating.
Not trying to squeeze into someone else's mold.
You got it. When we're not doing that, we can step into our own unique expression.
So that leads us to the final benefit, spiritual power.
Now, that's an intriguing one.
What does that even mean?
It's not about supernatural abilities or controlling the elements.
Okay.
It's about accessing a deeper source of strength, a strength that comes from aligning with our true selves and our spiritual purpose.
Not from what other people think or achieving some external goal.
Exactly. Think of someone like Nelson Mandela.
Oh, wow, yeah.
He spent 27 years in prison, faced unimaginable hardship. Yet he emerged with incredible inner strength, forgiveness, and compassion.
That's powerful.
That's the kind of spiritual power this text is talking about.
Inspiring, but let's be real for a sec. Letting go of those things can be so tough.
It can.
It takes a ton of courage to face those fears.
It does. And the text acknowledges that it actually reframes quitting as an act of courage, not weakness.
Hmm.
It's about having the faith to surrender what's familiar, even when it feels scary, and trusting that something better awaits.
Taking a leap into the unknown.
With an open heart.
Yeah, and a willingness to embrace what comes next.
You got it. And often what unfolds is far more beautiful and expansive than anything we could have imagined when we were clinging to the familiar.
I'm starting to see quitting in a whole new light. It's not about giving up. It's about choosing ourselves, choosing growth, choosing a path that feels true.
That's beautifully put.
So where do we go from here? How do we actually put this concept of spiritual quitting into practice in our own lives?
That's the million-dollar question, and one we'll explore in more depth later.
Stay tuned.
So how do we actually bring this idea of spiritual quitting into our daily lives?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. It's a pretty big concept.
It is, and putting it into practice can be a whole other challenge.
Definitely. But I'm ready to dive in.
Good. The text suggests starting with a simple but powerful question. What am I afraid to quit right now?
That's a good one.
It could be a job that's no longer fulfilling,
Or a relationship that's become toxic.
even a belief system that just doesn't resonate with you anymore,
It's about being honest with ourselves.
even if the answers are a bit uncomfortable.
Totally. So once we've figured out we're afraid to quit, what then?
Then we take a closer look at those fears.
I'd really examine them.
Yes, ask yourself, are these fears based in reality, or are they fueled by limiting beliefs and assumptions?
So it's like shining a light on those fears and seeing if they hold up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might be surprised to find that some of your biggest fears are like shadows. They seem huge until you bring them into the light.
I like that analogy. But even when we can see through our fears, letting go can still be hard.
It can. The text emphasizes the importance of shifting our perspective.
How so?
Instead of seeing quitting as failure or giving up,
Which is what we often think.
reframe it as an act of self-love and liberation.
It's about choosing ourselves, choosing growth, choosing a path that's aligned with our purpose.
Exactly. It's about taking a stand for your well-being, refusing to settle for less than you deserve.
That's empowering. And, it's helpful to remember that we're not alone in this.
Absolutely. We all face fears and challenges.
There's strength in recognizing that and reaching out for support when we need it.
Couldn't agree more. Now, the text dives deeper into some specific fears that often prevent us from quitting.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear more about that.
One of the most common fears is the fear of losing control,
Oh, that's a big one. The need to be in charge to manage every detail.
right? But what's fascinating is that the text suggests letting go of control can actually lead to greater freedom and peace.
Wait, really? Doesn't letting go of control mean chaos and uncertainty?
Not necessarily.
Hmm.
It's more about surrendering to a larger wisdom, a universal flow that's guiding us toward our highest good.
It's like trusting that there's a bigger plan, even if we can't see it right now.
Exactly. And that trust can be incredibly liberating.
It frees us from that pressure of having to control everything.
Yes. From forcing outcomes to always be in charge.
So we can relax and trust that things will unfold as they should.
And the trust is essential for spiritual growth.
It's about having faith that we're being guided and supported, even when things feel uncertain.
You got it. But how do we cultivate that trust? Especially when we're so used to being in control.
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's a process. And it starts with small acts of surrender.
Like what?
Maybe it's delegating a task at work, allowing someone else to drive, or simply choosing to go with the flow when unexpected changes pop up.
Little exercises in letting go.
Exactly. And as you experience the positive results of surrender, as you see that things don't fall apart when you loosen your grip,
Yeah.
your trust will grow.
And maybe that trust spills over into other areas of our lives.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Now, another fear that often keeps people stuck is the fear of not being enough.
Oof, that one hits home. The feeling that we're not smart enough, successful enough, worthy enough.
It can be paralyzing.
For sure. But the text reminds us that this fear is based on a false belief.
We are inherently worthy
Just by being alive.
simply by existing.
It's like we've forgotten that.
Yeah,
And we're constantly trying to prove ourselves through achievements or validation from others.
exactly. But you don't need to prove anything. You are enough just as you are.
Powerful stuff. It's about reclaiming our inherent worthiness,
And letting go of that constant need for external validation.
which can be a huge shift in how we see ourselves.
It can free you from so much suffering and self-sabotage.
It's about recognizing that our worth comes from within.
Exactly. And that brings us to another fear that often holds us back. The fear of the unknown.
Yeah, we humans tend to like certainty, predictability.
The unknown can feel scary, even threatening.
It's natural to want to avoid it.
It is. But here's the thing. Every major breakthrough, every moment of profound transformation involves stepping into the unknown,
It's in those moments of uncertainty
of not knowing what's coming next.
that we truly open ourselves to new possibilities.
So it's about embracing the mystery.
The adventure of not knowing.
Precisely. It's about letting go of the need to have everything figured out and allowing yourself to be surprised by what unfolds.
Okay, I love that. But how do we get more comfortable with the unknown when our natural instinct is to seek certainty and security?
It's a practice. Start by recognizing that the unknown is an inevitable part of life.
There's no escaping it.
Change is the only constant, and that's actually a beautiful thing. It keeps things interesting, keeps us growing.
Like accepting that life is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. And then, instead of viewing the unknown as a threat,
Yeah.
choose to see it as an opportunity for growth and expansion.
So it's about shifting from fear to curiosity and excitement.
That's it. And the more you embrace the unknown,
What happens?
the more you cultivate resilience and adaptability. You become less attached to specific outcomes
Okay.
and more open to the infinite possibilities that life has to offer.
This is all making a lot of sense. It's like we're being invited to let go of those tight grips on control, worthiness, and certainty.
And embrace a more expansive way of being.
But it's one thing to understand these ideas intellectually, and another to actually live them. How do we bridge that gap?
That's a great question. What does spiritual quitting look like in our everyday lives?
Yeah, what are some concrete examples?
Yeah.
What are some concrete examples?
Well, the text suggests starting with a close look at your thoughts, beliefs, and habits.
Like taking inventory.
Exactly. Ask yourself, is this thought actually helpful?
Hmm.
Is this belief aligned with who I want to be?
Is this habit helping me grow, or is it holding me back?
It's like decluttering your physical space,
Okay.
but for your mind and emotions.
I like that. So getting rid of the clutter can create a sense of peace and clarity.
Exactly.
So maybe it starts like becoming more aware of that negative self-talk.
Absolutely. Every time you catch yourself putting yourself down,
Yeah.
challenge that thought.
Okay.
Ask, is this really true?
Mm-hmm.
What evidence do I have to back this up?
Oh, interesting.
and then try to replace that negative thought with a more positive one.
So it's about consciously shifting our focus,
To the pause about.
affirming our worth.
You got it.
It's like we're weeding out the negativity.
And planting seeds of self-love and compassion.
I love that analogy.
And as you become more aware of your thoughts,
What then?
you can start to question the beliefs behind them.
Okay.
Are those beliefs still true for you?
Hmm.
Do they help you grow?
Or are they just old stories?
That no longer serve you?
Like outdated scripts.
Exactly. Letting go of those limiting beliefs opens up space for new, more empowering ones.
And that can have a ripple effect on our entire lives.
It can
Changing how we see ourselves and how we interact with the world.
It can transform your relationships,
Wow.
your career, your overall well-being.
That's huge. It can even change how we experience the world around us.
Yes, allowing you to see the beauty and possibilities that were always there, but maybe hidden from view.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. We've explored so much the concept of spiritual, quitting the courage to let go the fears that hold us back, and even practical steps to embrace this whole process.
A lot to unpack.
Yeah, for sure. What final thought would you leave our listeners with today?
I think the biggest takeaway is that true spiritual growth isn't about forcing things or always being in control.
It's more about surrender.
It's about letting go.
Adjusting.
Letting go of everything that's weighing you down.
And allowing life to guide us.
Trusting that it's leading you exactly where you need to be.
To a place of freedom and peace and authenticity.
And spiritual power.
It's a beautiful vision, and I'm feeling inspired
Me
to embrace the journey.
Remember, you have the power to choose what you hold on to and what you let go of.
Choose wisely.
And trust that the universe is on your side supporting you every step of the way.
What an insightful exploration. I hope you're feeling as empowered as I am to embrace this idea of spiritual quitting and unlock your full potential. Until next time, may your journey be filled with courage, clarity, and peace.